Hi everybody, it's Kristine and I am here today with a card tutorial to show you how to use the brand new BetterPress plates for the Graphic 45 Wonder of Oz collection. In addition to the BetterPress plates, I have used the 8x8 collection pack, a few of the pieces from the ephemera, and some ribbon along with my Graphic 45 square card base. In addition to this tutorial, you will need to check the Graphic 45 blog for all of the measurements for the papers. With the card base lying flat, first you want to add the white square to the front, followed by the red square on top of the white cardstock. Then you're going to combine the white rectangle with the blue Wonder of Oz paper, followed by the yellow brick road border strip at the top, just below the top of the blue paper. Taking my rainbow ephemera piece, I added some foam tape to the back to give it some dimension, and then I've added some chipboard scraps to the back of my Dorothy piece just to give it a little bit of dimension, but not as much as my rainbow. I'm layering my pieces so that my rainbow is just over the border strip, but then the Dorothy piece is actually going to be just on top of where it says Wizard of Oz so that you can still read that part, but she is just below the end of the rainbow. Now flipping to the inside, you're going to place the blue square on the top panel, followed by the paper with the poppies in the center. The yellow brick road paper is going to be on the bottom of the base, followed by the second strip of the yellow brick road border strip. This one is going to have the additional border strips on top and bottom. Next, I'm creating my pop-up mechanism using the poppies paper. I'm folding on all of those score lines, and then I'm creating a square or rectangular piece that's going to be the pop-up by adding my adhesive to the end section and then gluing it together. Once my piece is created, I'm going to add adhesive to one side of my poppy paper, so just one of the 3/4 inch panels. Then I'm going to line that part of the paper up on the yellow brick road paper just below that score line. The adhesive should be right side up because we're going to be attaching this to the top panel, but we need it to be in the correct position. Make sure that this is adhered down well, so try to burnish with your bone folder as best as you can. Once the poppy paper is on the top flap of the card, you're going to then apply adhesive to the bottom section of that poppy piece. Then you're going to close your card base to adhere it to the yellow brick road paper. This is going to allow that pop-up mechanism to be attached to both pieces, creating a base for those characters to be glued to later. I have already prepared my BetterPress plate characters, and I have colored mine with watercolor paints, but you could use markers, colored pencils, or anything else to color your pieces. Once your pieces are colored and cut out, what you're going to do is start layering them together so that they fit along the front of that poppy pop-up mechanism. I'm layering my pieces with the Tin Man behind Dorothy, and then I'm placing Dorothy's arm behind the scarecrow, almost like she's hugging him. The Cowardly Lion's tail is going to go behind Dorothy so that his body is actually in front of the scarecrow, but it is not going to be overlapping Dorothy. So once I have my pieces roughly where I want them to go, I'm starting with the Tin Man and I'm adhering only his feet to the end of that poppy paper. Once I have him on, I'm going to close this to make sure that he doesn't stick out too far past the top of my card base. With Dorothy, I'm going to add some foam squares, or you could use some leftover pieces of chipboard if you prefer. This is to help Dorothy stand out just a little bit from the Tin Man and give a little bit of added dimension. I'm only adding my foam squares to the parts of Dorothy that are going to be connected either to the Tin Man or to that poppy base. Before I stick Dorothy down to the base, I need to bring in my Scarecrow and my Cowardly Lion just to make sure that she's going to be correctly positioned. Once I have her in the correct position, I'm also going to place the Scarecrow, and I'm going to first put the Scarecrow down because he is another back layer, whereas Dorothy and the Cowardly Lion are layers that are on top of the Tin Man and the Scarecrow. So I'm holding the Scarecrow in place. Then I'm going to use my pencil just to draw around his feet so that I know where to replace him so that he's in the correct position. Then I'm going to apply my adhesive just to the Scarecrow's feet, and then I'm going to attach him right to that poppy paper. Once I have the Scarecrow on, I'm going to take my Cowardly Lion. I'm going to add some foam pieces behind him as well, just to give him some dimension and pop him up from the Scarecrow. I'm going to bend his tail slightly just because it's going to be tucked behind Dorothy, and I want his body to have some dimension in the front portion but be tucked behind on the back portion just to give it some layers. Once I have some foam tape on him, I need to bring Dorothy back in just to make sure that everything is positioned correctly. Once I'm happy with the placement, I'm going to go ahead and remove the backing and then adhere my Cowardly Lion to the end of the poppy pop-up mechanism. Be careful here and make sure that you don't put the Cowardly Lion's head too far to the right because you don't want it to hang over the end of the card base. So before you place your piece down, make sure when you close that card that it doesn't hang out the end. Now we're ready to add Dorothy as the front layer to our characters. So go ahead and peel off your backing to your foam tape. Position Dorothy again so that her arm is behind the Scarecrow. Later I did add some glue to the front of her arm so that she did adhere to the Scarecrow just to reinforce it and make sure that it stayed in position. One other thing to make sure of is that you don't put Dorothy's feet too far down. It needs to be just slightly above the bottom of the card. That way when you go to fold the pieces, they don't rub and bend. Choose your sentiment and add the sentiment just above Dorothy and the characters. Then, once those characters are on and the sentiment is in place, we are going to begin adding poppies to the card. I'm starting by adding just a few poppies to the side on the yellow brick road. I will add a few more poppies down there later as I get smaller sizes. The rest of the poppies I'm going to just place in pieces throughout. There's no right or wrong way to do this, so you don't have to do this exactly how I did. Just take those fussy cut pieces, layer them on. I did leave some of my pieces popped up a little bit. I did make sure that the majority of the flower was adhered down because I don't want them to be ripped, but I did want to add a little bit of dimension as well. Take your time here, go through piece by piece, adding those poppies so that it looks like the field of poppies is behind them as they're standing on the yellow brick road. You can add some additional pieces on the yellow brick road if you choose to do so, but I wouldn't recommend adding a bunch of the poppies down there, as this is the area where you would write a sentiment if you were going to be giving this card to a friend. Now, because of the pop-up mechanism and the use of the foam tape, the inside of the card is quite thick and it will not close correctly. So in order to help my card close, I'm going to put a ribbon closure on my card, but I want it to be attached to the card so that whenever I untie the ribbon, it will stay on my card. I found the center of my ribbon and I placed the ribbon on the end of the card to the left, and then I slightly rotated the ribbon so that I could tie my bow onto the right side of the card. Now, once I have my ribbon in place, I am going to then, on the back side, adhere a piece of paper to the ribbon so that it will not move. Make sure that your ribbon is lined up correctly. You're going to take one of those border strips and you're going to adhere this paper right across the end of the ribbon. I also added some additional adhesive on top of the ribbon just to make sure that everything was adhered down. This adhesive will sink into that ribbon and adhere the ribbon to the back of that card base. Now you can add some additional finishing touches, such as gems like I did on the front of your card base. I hope you have enjoyed watching this card come together and enjoying using your BetterPress plate system. Happy crafting!